I'm using the minigame teleport to take me to Trawler so I can hop on a charter boat to Catherby. I stopped in the bank here to pick up an emergency cake, and at the nearby mansion I started Merlin's crystal. I had to fight Sir Mordred next, so I made sure I was geared up with food and hopped into a box to take me over to his fortress. As soon as I got there, these guards started attacking me. I made my way up as quick as possible and then realised I had Entity Hider on and someone was already attacking him. I tried just waiting for him to finish, but it was taking forever, so I hopped to the next world and started the fight. I had to eat a lot of cake, and I accidentally ran downstairs at one point, but eventually I got him super low. Then his mum popped up asking me not to kill her son, so I spared him and went back to Catherby. I kicked some bees out of their home and stole their honey, killed a bat, and then asked this candle maker for a spooky black candle. And I was able to take the underground tunnel to Taverley next, where I had to speak to the Lady of the Lake. I walked all the way to Port Sarum, then had to go to Varrock, then back to the mansion where I saw a ghost, climbed the ladders, broke Merlin free from the ice, and finished the quest. And Tree Gnome Village was up next. Completing this quest will give me access to a new mode of hopping around the world using spirit trees. I spoke to the gnome with the red hat, then the one in a brown hat, and this right here pretty much sums up my RuneScape experience. I clicked the door to open it and tried to go in, but my spam clicks made me path around the outside, had to stop and go back to the front, closed the door myself, and had to reopen it again to get in. Am I the only one that does shit like this? Anyway, after speaking to the prisoner gnome, I loaded up this giant crossbow thing and fired something out of it. I climbed through this pile of rubble, and this guard popped out of nowhere and started attacking me. I ran up the ladder, looted this chest, and got the hell out of there. I climbed through this little fence and spoke to the king in here, and next up it was fight time. I threw my spells out at the guy here, but for some reason he kept walking away from me. This was messing up my safe spot, and I had to keep running in and attacking him and then running back to my safe spot area. I really should have marked the tile too, because I kept forgetting which one was safe, and I took a few whacks because of it. It only would have taken 3 max hits to kill me here, and my reactions are shockingly slow. But I was able to defeat him without dying. I lifted his balls off the ground and then gave them to this fancy tree, and now I could finally use the spirit trees to get around this world faster. This quest also gave me a hefty attack XP drop, which upped my level to 38, and also upped my combat to 37. I decided to do Below Ice Mountain next. I had to grab some bread from the cake stall before heading over to Willow to start the quest. The entire thing seemed to be some sort of PE lesson. There was jogging on the spot, star jumps, 100-meter sprints, push-ups, and a cooldown with some games of rock, paper, scissors. In round 1 I chose rock and he chose paper, but apparently he was too hammered to think straight, so I won that round. Then I won the second and the third rounds as well, and after that was over we blew up the doors into these ruins, and they left me alone here to fight this rock man. I tried to do the pillar method to kill it, but it kept hitting me. I stuck at it though, and soon enough it was dead, and now I had access to the ruins of Cam Dazal. I haven't a baldy what you can actually do here, or if it's useful, but at least I've unlocked it for now. I teleported out of there and killed a rat to get its bones, then killed a goblin for its skull, and a ram for its skull too. I tried to go into the swamp hole, but I didn't have a torch. I thought, fuck, I'll try to go in anyway. And then this message appeared in my chat, so I ran back out, killed a unicorn for its horn instead. I grabbed myself a light source and tried that swamp hole again. Attacked the hopper for a frog leg, carved a canoe to take me to the Champions Guild, hopped out of it and went straight to the bear nearby, took its ribs. I ranged a monkey and then I cast a telegrab to get its paw, and then I had to buy lots of vinegar and throw each bone into a pot. Now I had to cook them. This quest is so odd. Each time I had to light my own fire, put the pot on, and then wait for them to boil, and then do it all over again. Once it was finished, I handed them over to this guy with a huge sack and I finished the quest. It gave me enough prayer XP to level up to 20. Told the guy in the library about that quest and got myself a nice little bit of XP. I decided to throw it on construction and I brought it up to 31, and that's where I finished for the night. I started today by getting the things ready so that I could do the giant dwarf quest. Then I teleported myself over to Lumbridge and I bought a few things from the basement shop so that I could make a red berry pie and stick it in the oven. Then I went through this cave entrance and spoke to the dwarf here to start the quest. The quest that I would soon learn was absolutely horrendous to do. I had to speak to the majority of the people in Celtigrim, which is pretty aptly named because running back and forth in this place is nothing but grim. At one point I had to leave here and find Thurgo just to give him that red berry pie that I'd made, then come back here to do more tasks and prove myself. I had to get initiated into the blue opal. First task I had to do was to get 3 pieces of tin ore. I checked my bank and I didn't have enough, so I had to go down here and find a guy who would sell me some. I bought some copper and iron too, just in case, and then headed back to the opal guy. The next quest he gave me was to get 3 copper ore, which luckily I had right here with me now. So I handed those over and got the third task, which required 3 pieces of mithril ore. I chanced my arm and said no to this one and got a new one instead, and the next one was 5 pieces of coal, which I also didn't have with me. So I just went back to the shop and got some more coal. I also grabbed gold and silver this time, and after giving in the coal I needed 3 iron ore. Luckily I dropped mine on the ground before leaving here so I could just pick it up and use it. And then I was told to talk to the director, and he wanted 2 silver bars from me. I just went downstairs and bought them at the shop down below, but he wouldn't talk to me again to take them off me. He told me to speak to the secretary again, and none of the options here seemed to be working. I I had no idea what I'd done wrong. I tried just doing another task for this guy, so I dropped the ores that I had, bought what he needed in the shop, gave him what he wanted, and finally he told me to speak to the director again. Hopefully this time it doesn't mess up. This time he wanted 4 steel bars, and luckily I had 4 in my bank, so I grabbed them and gave them over. And finally, he did actually ask me to join his wee gang, but I didn't even want to join him anymore. But I had to finish the quest, so I joined the Blue Opal and then went to get my rewards. That was for sure a ground quest, but it did give me some nice XP drops at least. It upped my smithing to 32, my crafting to 36, and my magic to 40, and my thieving to 43. Surprisingly, I did actually go straight on to do another quest after that one, this time the Garden of Death. This will get me a huge 10,000 farm and XP drop. So I prepped for it and made my way to this campsite. Went down into this hole where I had to do some translations from a stone tablet. And then I ran through this area of lizards things that poisoned and attacked me. I'm so glad that that wasn't a multi-area and I'm still alive. I hopped on a wee boat and went down into another hole, completed some more translation things, then ran back through the lizards and down this hole. Quests like this really make me glad that Quest Helper exists. I had one more set of translations to do after that, and then this quest was complete. That didn't really seem like a farming quest to me at all, but I'm not complaining on about 10,000 XP. It took me right up to 32 farming, and now I can grow Ranar weeds. Next up was a Black Knight's Fortress, which I had to start from the castle in Falador. And then nearby I could buy an iron chain body that I needed for this quest. The fortress here was pretty scary and my spam clicks weren't helping me. I had to go up and down lots of different ladders and then sneakily listen in through this gate. I went to go into this room next, but I couldn't choose the right option to get in because this guy kept attacking me. I finally got him stuck and entered. I flung a cabbage into the pipe here, which ended up in the witch's cauldron and absolutely ruined her potion. I headed back to Falador and completed the quest, and it didn't actually really get me anything useful, but it was a pre-requirement for doing recruitment drive, which is what I started next, right here in the same place. I spoke to the guy sitting on the bench in the park and he stuck me in some escape room type thing. First I looted the room and then made a wee potion on the Bunsen burner. I stuck a spade in the door and poured out some chemical things to break through the lock, I guess, and then I made my way out of here. The next room was a memory test, which was super easy. And then in this room I had to fight my way out. I lifted the warhammer and then started punching. Equipping the warhammer helped and I was able to win the battle and leave that room. Finally, I had to carry a chicken across the bridge and then carry a fox over, take the chicken back, and then the sack was up next. Then back to the chicken and we were all across safely. And after that, I just skipped all the rooms I needed to and the quest was over. It gave me some prayer, herblore and agility XP. And also a nice 3,000 coin drop. I got 22 prayer and 20 herblore off that quest. And then I didn't really know what to do next, so I spent ages standing in the bank and finally decided to take myself over to Draenor Manor to kill ghosts for my Slayer task. I wanted to use range here because I desperately need to level up that skill, but it was taking me so feckin' long to do these kills. I used a massive amount of my arrows here too, so I kept picking them up and re-equipping them when I could. I figured out a way to safe spot them using the stuff that was lying on the floor, and eventually I reached a range level of 19, and now I can so nearly upgrade to that better bow. I also hit 850 total levels while I was here, and soon enough I was level 20 and could use a Willow bow, but what wasn't soon enough was finishing this damn Slayer task. It took me 50 minutes to kill 32 ghosts, but once I'd killed them, I completed the Slayer task, and then I grabbed the arrows that I could and left the place hoping I'd never be back here. I got a clue scroll during that Slayer task, so I headed over to Lumbee for the first step where I had to speak to the cook. He gave me a new clue scroll, and it told me to go to the manor that I was literally just at. Great. So back I went and I got another clue scroll which told me to go back to the cook again. This game's actually taking the mickey out of me here. Thankfully I got my casket next, which gave me a staff of water and some fish. And I'd honestly had enough at that point and logged out for the night. Start today off, I used the game telly to get myself to Berthorpe and headed to the Graceful shop, where I picked myself up a fancy new pair of boots in the hood. Then I used the Canifus fairy ring to teleport me back to the rooftops, because I still didn't have enough to get all of the Graceful pieces. I ran around here until I completed 500 total laps, and then I prepped for a birdhouse run. I'm basically becoming a pro at doing these now, and by pro I mean I didn't actually forget seeds this time. I completed the entire run and then decided to get myself a new Slayer task. I spent so long running around the rooftops that I could actually use that game telly again, and went to Guardians of the Rift because it was close to Draenor, and then ran up and asked Spray for a Slayer task. She gave me the task of 45 wolves. I thought that wouldn't be too difficult, so I instantly geared up and found myself some wolves right by a fairy ring. I clearly read the wiki wrong though, because these ones were level 69 and they did a hell of a lot of damage to me. I was spam eating cakes, and 8 whole cakes later I'd finally killed just one. That's not sustainable at all when I have to kill 44 more, so I chronicle tallied and found myself some much lower level 11 wolves in the stronghold. I 3-hit the first wolf, so this definitely seems like it was the right idea. I also got a clue scroll drop pretty early on here, but stayed until the end of my task. Then I did the first step with the clue, then headed to the G for the second step, and I just got the casket here. And inside I had some runes and a pickaxe, worth 163 coins in total. But shite that. A home telly to do tiers of Guthix next. I filled up my little bowl with a blue juice, then swallowed it all, and my hurdler shot up to 23. But that means I still can't make energy potion. Next up, I started Ernest the chicken. I had to pick up some fish food around this mansion, and then pick up a spade to go digging in the sandbox. After that, I poisoned the entire fish population in the fountain, grabbed one out, grabbed a rubber tube, pulled many different levers in the dungeon here, also that I could grab this oil can and bring it to this odd man. He fired up this machine and then turned this chicken into a man, and that was that. Next up, I started Tower of Life. I spoke to this guy passed out by the boxes, and then spoke to the workmen around the tower until one gave me a bloody helmet. I needed this guy to give me his boots, but he wouldn't give them up, so I pickpocketed him loads of times, and I kept flipping failing. Eventually, I did finally get the boot, and then I searched in the bushes nearby for trousers. Now I could finally enter the tower, and I searched through all the crates in here to find what I needed to do this quest. Once I had all of them, all I had to do was click blue thanks to the quest helper plugin, and then I searched a lot more crates. Clicked a lot more blue, more crates again, more clicks again, and then these people came along and summoned some baby monster into a cage. I made a deal with the thing to let it out, and then we went down and scared the crap out of the purple people. And that finished the quest with a drop of construction, crafting, and thieving XP. My final quest of the day was Pirate's Treasure. I'm still banging these quests out, which is nice, but I reckon that the grind will get a lot longer soon. Stocked up on some rum and bananas, stashed them in a crate here, and snuck into the back of the shop to steal them back. I swapped the rum with a pirate for a key, opened the chest, and got a treasure map. I dug where X marked the spot, but a guy popped out of nowhere and started attacking me. I staff bashed him with my fairy stick and then dug again and received the treasure chest. Inside it was a gold ring and an emerald. Really not worth my time. I then ended the day how I started it on the Canopus rooftops. I'm really trying to get this graceful set. I think I'll be happy when I get the top at least. I'm not sure I'll swap out the cape for my arty one quite yet, so that can wait a while. After 30 laps around here, I logged out quite content for the night. I'm making progress here at least. Last time I logged out with only a few laps to go until I hit a new agility level. Today I started by finishing that up, and at this point I just needed one more lap, but then I fell at the last jump. So another time around the roofs, and finally I was 56 agility. I was thinking about trying to do Enlightened journey next. By reading the wiki I was pretty sure that I actually needed to plant the willow tree and grow it myself. I stopped by Spree on the way through Draenor to get a new Slayer task. Only 2 episodes ago I had that agonising Ghost Slayer task that I arranged, and that's exactly what she wanted me to do again, but this time it was only 23 instead of 32. I really don't want to go back there right now though, so I continued on starting the Enlightened journey quest. I made my way over to the gardening shop because I've actually not done any farming before. I had to grab a watering can, some filled plant pots, and a gardening trowel for planting the seed. I popped the willow seed that I luckily already had from Wintertodd into a plant pot, filled up the watering can at the sink, and then I started spiraling here about how I needed willow branches to be able to make a basket to ensure that my willow tree grew, but to be able to get willow branches I needed to make the basket, which I needed the tree for. But after a bit more time spent reading the wiki, I realised that the shop I was at literally sold them. I must have completely overlooked that, so I went back and got a full pack of them. Then I checked that I could actually plant the willow tree, which I probably should have done first, but luckily I actually did have the level for it. But what I didn't have was apples to fill up the basket. But thankfully that was just because I spelt it wrong. I did actually have apples, cooking apples anyway, and after another check of the wiki, that's apparently okay. So I filled up the basket, got Aggie here to make me some red and yellow dye, and then I realised that I didn't actually own a rake. So back to the garden shop and a rake purchase later, I was on my way to the Lumbridge tree patch. I raked it, planted my seed, and paid with a basket of apples that I had, and now I needed to wait for that to grow. I got what I needed to continue on the quest, well, what I had in my bank at least. I had to make a third flipping stop at the shop for a sack, and a stop in Arty for some silk, and another one for papyrus and woolly balls, and a stop in Unil for potatoes. And now I could finally do the first step, where I had to go to Entrana. I wasn't allowed any weapons or armour here, so I took off everything that I thought I needed to, but I still wasn't allowed on the boat. Apparently I had to bank the Arty cape too, and that cape is literally like a safety blanket for me right now, so I didn't want to do that. But with it off, I was able to make my way on to Entrana, where I started the quest. Me and this guy launched a wee balloon off together, but it didn't end well. So we tried again, and this time it was attacked by a load of pitchforkers. Then he wanted more sandbags from me. So I filled my sacks up and handed them over. And this was the part where I needed my willow branches, but that was going to take hours for it to grow. So I decided to finish there for the night. And when I came back on the next day, I was excited for my willow branches to be done and get on with this quest. But if you haven't noticed already, I don't read very well, because I actually had to go and check the tree before the branches that I needed even started to grow. So I checked the health of it and got a Hespori seed, which was a nice collection log pop-up, and then another wait began. It was going to take an hour for my willow branches to grow. I was able to do tiers of Guthix, so that's the first way I decided to waste some time. This time I got enough blue juice to up my prayer level to 24, which was a huge 2-level increase. Now I needed to figure out how to waste the rest of the hour. I decided to take a wee paddle up the river and head to Fossil Island to do a birdhouse run, but I completely forgot the logs this time. What was I saying recently about being professional at this? I guess I'm not as good at the birdhouse runs as I thought. A quick bank stop later and I was on my way around the island, and I hit 875 total levels and 25 hunter while I was here. Then I went back to Lumbridge to check how many branches I had. I was able to get 4 branches from the tree. Then I went to Draenor Manor to do that flippin' ghost task that I had. This time though I was just going to melee them because ranging them absolutely sucked. I was leveling up a lot here, which was nice. I hit 40 combat and 39 attack, finished my task of 23 ghosts, and then went back to the tree. I was able to get 4 more branches. Then I went to refresh my Slayer task. Next up was 48 lizards, which I didn't want to do right now. I spent some time hopping around in Draenor because my seeds for my birdhouse's stash was running low, and then I grabbed loads of food so that I could start the Corsair cursed quest. This man took me on a wee boat trip to a private island, but the people on here had all been cursed. Wee Colin here told me all the drama. He saw it all happen through his telescope apparently. Someone had fished up a demon doll, so I tried to bury it, but it ran back into the ocean, and then this ogre swam over to get it. But in the end it turned out that this guy was actually faking the curse the whole time, and I was going to expose him, so he attacked me. I tried to safe spot him, but ended up just tanking hits instead. And once he was dead, I spoke to the travel guide back on the boat and the quest was finished. I ran straight back to my willow tree and got enough branches this time to finish this quest. So I headed back to Entrana to continue on. We built a hot air balloon, then I guided it through some high-tech 2D puzzle screens and ended up in Taverley with the quest finished. And I got some drops of fire making, farming, crafting and woodcutting XP. But more importantly, now I can use the balloon transport system around Gilnor. I decided to continue questing for a while with Tribal Totem, so I spoke to someone in Brimhaven. This quest was pretty quick. I got teleported by this wizard in Ardy, completed this lock puzzle, climbed up the stairs, but triggered a trapdoor and ended up in the sewers. Had to get teleported again and went up properly this time. Looted the chest for the tribal totem, returned it to the guy in Brimhaven, and that gave me 5 swordies and some thieving XP. Next up was Sleeping Giants. This quest would give me access to the Giants Foundry minigame. I grabbed wool from a sheep and then followed this blue line around the desert. This Kovac guy asked for my help making giant weapons and showed me around their factory. I basically ran around this place like a headless chicken for a while, trying to figure out what way I was meant to make a sword, and I kept messing it up. It really was not enjoyable, and I thought that the UI here sucked, which made it even worse. But once I'd finished it, I hit 35 smithing, and I don't know if I'll ever actually go back there because that minigame was horrible. I went to speak to Jarl to start the Making History quest next. I dug up an enchanted chest, used a key on it, went to Relica for the first time and spoke to a few people there, then headed to Port Phasmatas where I had to grab some slime and chicken, then worship at this fountain thing, and now I could enter here and talk to the ghosts. Then I headed back to Jarl to finish the quest with 1000 prayer and crafting XP. And at this point I don't know how many quests I'd done, but it felt like a lot, so that's where I ended for the night. Alright, today I'm hoping to get the Golem quest completed, but I need soft clay to be able to do that, which I don't have. I need a jug of water and normal clay to do that, which I do have. I just gotta fill my jugs up here at this pump first, and then pour the water onto the clay. Now I can make my way to Alcarid. Well, that's what I intended to do anyway, but I got distracted and went by the Slayer Master and Draenor to check my task. It was 48 lizards, which I could do in the desert where I'm heading. So I got the ice coolers that I needed to complete the task and entered Alcarid. I bought a desert top and some water skins to keep me safe out there, then decided to ferry ring in instead of walking the whole way. I'm pretty scared for my first time in the desert here, but that's not abnormal for me. I'd be scared of my own damn shadow, honestly. I went to start the Golem quest first by using the clay that I'd made on him. Then I picked up and clicked through this letter, entered the runes, grabbed this strange implement thing, and then I was at the point where the next step was outside the desert, which means that now it was time to kill the lizards. I had to deal with both the desert heat and the lizards trying to kill me, and I wasn't sure when I needed to drink this water. But chat told me that it auto did it for me, so thanks for that, Jagex. That's actually quite nice. I just needed to focus on the lizards for now. I was attacking this one to begin with because I didn't realise that the little ones would actually count for my task, but apparently they do, so I'm definitely taking the easy way out and doing them. I got a nature talisman from killing the first big one, and then I tried to focus on getting the baby ones, but the big ones kept getting in my way. At one point I wasn't paying attention to RuneScape and looked back over and my health was deteriorating rapidly because I'd accidentally auto-retaliated against a big one. I ran away and I ate my lobsters and then pieced out of here until my heart rate came down again, and instead of going straight back there I decided to do a birdhouse run and got a couple of hunter levels doing that. Then I did the next steps of the Golem quest because they were around this damn dig site area in the Varric Museum anyway. Then I went back to the desert again. I continued with the quest instead of going back to fight the lizards. This cool little phoenix thing gave me a feather and I gave it to the golem and the quest was done. Now it was back to lizards. I kept getting them low, sticking them in the coolers, and once I'd finished off 48 of them, my task was finally done. I've been told that always working towards finishing Recipe for Disaster is one of the best progress goals to set yourself for the early game, so I'm going to try and do the Dwarf sub-quest for that next. I grabbed his Scarnian eels, stuck a penny in them, spoke to the drunk dwarf here until he made a cake out of some rocks, and then I had to kill this ice fiend because that would cool the cake down or something. On the way down I passed by this shooting star below the mountain, so of course I stopped there for a while, and then I took the rock cake to the dwarf, and then I'd completed one part of the Recipe for Disaster quest. That leaves 6 more sub-quests to go. Then off stream I've been spending some time mining some stars. When I came back on the next day I'd earned enough stardust to get the mining ring. So I bought it from this shop, which also got me a collection log pop-up. Then I was prepping to do Forgettable Tale, but you couldn't buy the barley that you needed to do it, and after the Willow grind that I'd done recently I just didn't have that in me, so I binned that off and mined some more stars while figuring out what to do next. After a lot of time spent thinking, I decided to do Ghosts Ahoy. I headed to Lumbee to make bowstring, which I needed to make an oak longbow. Then I could enter Port Phasmatas and start the quest. I had to grab some nettles and make some nettle tea, then feed it to the old lady here. Then there was a big lobster fight up next. I opened the chest and ran, but then I actually had to go back and search it to make the lobster pop out. Then I ran away and went up this ladder by mistake. I had to come back down to start the fight. I was going to try and safe spot it, so I got myself behind the ladder and attacked it, but it flippin' disappeared, so I had to restart the entire fight. This time I tried to use magic spells on it instead of ranging it, and then when it was finally downed, I looted a treasure map from the chest. I grabbed wood leaves from the gardener here, thank god I didn't have to grow these as well, and then I tried to grab onions from the shop, but they didn't sell them, so I found a field nearby instead. Now Iggy could make me some dyes, and someone in chat told me that I could actually just use the item on her to make a dye instead of going through the chat dialogue each time. That was an absolute game changer. I mixed up the dyes and then put them on this flag in the right order. I headed back over to the ship, climbed the ladder on purpose this time, spoke to the man here, and then looked in this chest and got another piece of the treasure map. I hopped my way along these giant stepping stones and got the third piece of the treasure map from here. Then I fell flat on my face and eventually made my way over to Dragontooth Island, which is where the map had told me there was treasure. I dug where blue marked the spot and got a book. Then back in Port Phasmatis, this Peter Pan looking man told me that he wanted to play a game with me. I guessed it was a bit like 21, so whenever I hit 21 I held and I won the round, but he wanted me to play another one and I insta-lost this time with a death rune. So we played again and I won. But he wanted me to keep playing, so maybe I need to win 3 here or something. If it was 21, I should have held here because drawing again got me a death rune and I lost. So we played again for my third win, but it was a loss thanks to another death rune. Then in the next game I lost again because of another death rune. In the next game he got a death rune, so I finally won, and that was 3 wins. But that still wasn't enough apparently. Luckily he got the back-to-back death runes and I won again, and this time he admitted defeat, signed the sword for me, which I handed over to this girl. Then I wrapped the bedsheet around myself and spoke to the ghosts around here. I needed 10 signatures on some petition from these guys, but most of them politely told me that they weren't interested. Eventually though I did get enough signatures, so I went to steal the robes out of this guy's coffin and gave them to the old woman. She was oddly pretty happy about that. After that was done, I made this necrovirus guy agree to let all the ghosts pass through into the next world. Then I told the ghost where I started this quest that I'd done everything she asked me to, and I finished the quest and got an Ectophial, along with free entry into this town and some prayer XP. I tested out the Ectophial a few times and then ran back towards Canifis, but I got attacked on the way, so I one-click telly right back, and I didn't actually fancy starting anything else at that point, so I ended there for the night. Alright, starting off today, it's time for Tears of Guthix again. I got 68 blue juices in the bowl this time, which leveled my range to 25, and then I prepped for a birdhouse run. I took the canoe up the river to Varric and stopped on my way through here to check my kudos. I have 108 at the minute. I need 153 to use that gate that takes me over to the Fossil Island boat quicker. I spoke to the guy here and then I left with 113 kudos. I'm still a while away. I used a lump that I got from here on Herblore, and now I have 25 levels. And I can clean ranors. I got out all the ones that I had in my bank and cleaned them, and then I went and completed this birdhouse run. I got 28 hunter and 29 hunter, and then I decided to do this beginner clue scroll. The first step was Charlie, and he wanted a leather body, which luckily I actually had in my bank, so I grabbed it out and handed it over to him. The next step was to dig in a spot nearby Varric, handy enough. Then for the next step I had to grab this little orb from my bank and a spade and hop across the river and dig in this spot. And I got my casket here. I opened it up and inside was a bow worth 57 coins. That sucks. A little bit of bank standing next to try and figure out what to do. I thought about doing my Slayer task next, but I decided that I couldn't be arsed to do that right now. So I considered doing Demon Slayer instead. But the big demon hits 9s, and I'm not sure I'm good enough to do that yet. In the end I decided just to do Guardians of the Rift. I have 56 agility now, and I think that's what I needed to do the slope down to the better rocks. So I went to Guardians of the Rift, climbed on down there and mined the rocks. Then I did the chiseling, entered lots of altars, made lots of rune things and gave them to the Guardian. And after enough games here to get me 4 points in total, I went to pull my rewards. I got a Mind Talisman, a Nature Talisman, Abyssal Pearls, and 96 Nature Runes. Then I left that place and ferry round over to Canifis. I hopped around the rooftops here for a while until I had completed 10 total laps. Then I tallied away to do Sorceress's Garden. I can still only do the spring one, so I grabbed enough fruits from there to make 5 of the beer things and then handed them over to the guy. My reward was 6,750 XP, and now I have 45 thieving levels, which means I can actually do the Autumn Garden now instead. So I had to go and do that a few times of course, which was harder than the spring one actually, but the plugin definitely helps. I made 3 beers and handed those in, which got me another thieving level. Then I fancied something a little bit more chill, so I cut willow trees for a while and fletched the logs. Fetching is one of the skills that I really need to work on, but then a star popped up here so I mined it instead. I love how AFK these stars are. I mined it for ages, and then once it was finished I found another one and mined it down too, and during that one I got a clue, so that's what I did next. First up was a wizard star basement, and the next step was over to Charlie. He wanted leather chaps this time, which luckily I had in my bank as well, so I handed those over and got the casket. And inside was a black robe top. Not great at all. Then after that, I accidentally took an unplanned 5-month break, but you'll not have to wait 5 months for the next episode. The return's going to be live next week, so I'll see you then.